This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
John Wadham, I'm the president of Rutland Water Fly Fishers, and this is, I think, our 40th year of existence. We started when Rutland Water opened. Steve Parton was the originator of the club, and there was one founder member now, including me. There's just the two of us who were left in existence.
We see the boats on the water almost from dawn till dusk, really. Does everyone come through you, or do some people just book a boat and off they go?
No, they book their own boats. That is entirely done through Anglian Water. The only involvement we have in terms of boats is organising boat matches. We have 3 bank matches and 3 boat matches a year.
And how has fishing been so far? Because we're still fairly early in the season.
Tough going with the early bank fishing this season. Boat fishing's been excellent. And the brown trout fishing is arguably the best in the EU. Seriously, the average brown trout in the lake of the wild fish that have been in there more than a year is probably 6 pounds.
So I'm guessing over the 40 years as well, the quality has got better because they started virtually from scratch, didn't they, back mid-70s?
Yes, the fishing opened in July 1977. We formed as a club in, I think it was March 1979, so we're celebrating our 40th year. During that time, as I say, we've had an excellent working relationship with Anglian Water, so we really work together on everything that's going on. We keep each other up to date, you know. And they've been very good in sponsoring our events. I just mentioned that Dave organises weekend. I still refer to it as Big Dave's Weekend. We get the boats at concessionary rates. And Anglian have been very generous in sponsorship, really. We have the Sunday morning meets. They've also sponsored that, and we can fish and take one fish. So, you know, it's our way of getting into it. And that's one of the functions of our club, is to try and get youngsters into sport, and it's getting increasingly difficult. We did for a while run some very successful juniors events, and they really worked very well. They were a great success, but it's a lot of work, and unfortunately with GDPR and everything else, this, I'm afraid, it's become, I hate to say it, increasingly difficult to really put on now.
So what's
we
the
run
minimum?
these Sunday morning meets, and what we achieved here is getting the 20s, the age group 20 to 40, that's the group that's missing, not the little ones. They're great. And then we hope that Dad, age 30, sees Roger, or Robin, or whoever it might be, age 5, catches his first fish.
And wants a piece of the action.
And he wants a piece of the action, and that has worked. And that's that's the most successful thing we've achieved in that respect. But what happens now? Grandad comes. Grandad wants to get back into it after this sort of, when he, now the children are grown up, he wants to come back and have another go.
And about how many people are in the club, would you say?
We have, Dave, how many members have we got now? It's about 130. Yeah, it's about 130. We've always been, we've always been at round about that level. We're very fortunate being able to keep this membership up, but that means a lot of work. And these are the folks. Without these people and that hard work and effort goes into the club, that's why I think that, for me, so without boasting, that's our reason for our success.
And describe the experience of fishing on Rutland Water. I've been on a fishing boat. It's the most tranquil place you could possibly ever be as far as waterways for miles, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's the most attractive place, and when you first see it, you think, oh, this is a beautiful looking lake. It was known as Empingham Reservoir, and mostly they changed the name to Rutland Water. And part of the joy is catching the fish. The other half of it is just actually being there. If you looked at car parks on Sunday afternoon, you realise those people, they haven't just come to fish, they've just come to be there. We get fishing, that is a bonus.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio. And people can find everything about you online and get in touch.
It's rwff.org.
Lovely. Nice to meet you here today. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio podcast.
Morning.
Good morning, and how are you, and how was your bank holiday weekend?
Well, I'm sort of busy with a poorly friend, but I did go to a barbecue and there were just 3 of us. So we sat and talked and it was so chilling and relaxing. It It was lovely. I didn't watch a lot of television. I've read quite a bit, listened to the radio. I can't believe what you and Rachel did. I've read it.
Mm.
You spread yourself thin all over the place,
We
visiting everybody.
Yes, we did do a lot, actually. Yesterday we went to Ketton Car Boot in the morning. So many people there. And then the Burley Game and Country Fair, which seemed bigger than I've known it before. And a christening the day before for a friend's little daughter, baby Etta, which was lovely as well. In Castor Church. Never been to Castor before.
Oh, no, I haven't. I see James Corver's coming back doing a Christmas special, so I'm waiting for that.
Oh, is he? He's coming back to UK, is he, after so much success in America?
He's doing a Christmas special, him and Stacey.
Oh, Gavin and Stacey and all that.
Gavin and Stacey, that's it. He's doing a Christmas special, so I can't wait for that.
And your barbecue, was it dry throughout? I imagine lots of people this weekend, particularly yesterday, were barbecuing under an umbrella.
No, it wasn't dry throughout. It's awful to say. Sylvia barbecued outside and we sat in the front room in the warm.
I'm sure you weren't the only one doing that this weekend, actually. It was a bit changeable, wasn't it?
But it was fabulous. And I went to the voluntary shop yesterday and you meet people who are visiting the town and they love it, you know. They love the town and it's really nice. But the biggest conversation was, of course, Rod Stewart.
Yes, of course, with the
train.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But for me, that's like the widow's mite.
In what way?
He gave all that money, but equally was important as people who gave £10, I feel.
Yes, very true.
And today's my chilling day. Radio, books, dilly courts, and that's it.
Lovely. Have a wonderful one, and we'll speak to you next Monday as normal.
Yes, no more bank holidays now till August.
Rutland Radio.
I'm not quite sure what I've walked into. Hello, are you Hayley?
I am, I'm Hayley. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And can you tell us a bit about this dance-a-thon?
So we're in our last half hour here down at Studio E and we've been dancing since 8 o'clock yesterday morning. We've had a wide range of classes, live performances that were meant to be an hour and went on for 3 because we don't do anything by halves. And we've danced all through the night with musical chairs, glow sticks. We even went out and used the gym facilities at the park at one point.
I tell you what, you still look amazing considering you've been here for 24 hours.
I don't feel amazing, I'm a bit sticky.
and what's this all in aid of?
So this is in aid of the Sunshine Campaign. So my cousin Grace Ferry set up this campaign to raise £45,000 for the York Rescue Lifeboat Team. And we're going to raise enough money to get a lifeboat on that river. And it's in memory of our Grace's brother, Sonny Ferry, who we lost last month, unfortunately.
And you made me very excited. You haven't counted everyone's donation because you've still got to do the online. But how much money have you raised already?
So close to £1,000, and we've still got so much more coming out.
Well, I'll leave you to it.
Thank you.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
So Hayley, we're at the last leg. Can you tell me what's going on in here?
So we have got Danny Barker with Fitness Escapes Rutland. I go to his boot camps regularly on a weekly basis and he's offered his services to come down and train us all. Look at them go.
You've been here for 24 hours nearly.
Yes.
You've raised over £1,000.
100%, and we're going to get more.
I'm loving your T-shirt, nice and bright for the Sunshine Campaign. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the Sunshine Campaign?
So the Sunshine Campaign was set up by my close relatives. It's my auntie and my cousins have set it up to raise money for the York Rescue Lifeboat Team to get a rescue boat on the river to save lives ultimately. And we're aiming for £45,000. On the GoFundMe page, we're at £10,000 already, and then we're going to add what we've done today to those contributions, and every little step counts.
Dare I ask what the next event is?
Oh, we've got loads. We've got a charity truck pool coming up, and another cousin down in Hastings is doing a big charity night. So there's going to be loads of things happening. We're not going to stop till we reach our target. So
and you're quite well known in the area, aren't you?
Lots of children know me, and lots of you all know me for dancing. I teach at Rutland Youth Dance Academy, and I'm in lots of schools, so lots of people know me around Oakham. So
that's lovely. Well, I'll let you get back to it.
Thank you. I
Rutland Radio.
So Rosemary Conley with us this morning, and The Secrets of Staying Young is a talk that she's giving at Gates Garden Centre next Thursday, the 6th of June. Firstly, sum up what the morning is about. The Secrets of Staying Young. I mean, who doesn't want to actually go to something called that?
Well, we're hoping that lots of ladies and gentlemen are very welcome too. And it's at Gates Nursery, and it's next week on the 6th of June from just 10 till 12. And it is a really exciting morning, and it's only £10 tickets, and it's all in aid of charity. And the charity is STEPS, Conductive Education Centre, which serves the whole of the East Midlands. And basically, what I will be talking about is, and giving some of the secrets about, is things that I have learned in my journey in sort of diet, fitness, makeup artists, television, all of those things that, how can we make ourselves look the best we possibly can? And we can cover everything from how to stand the best way to have your photograph taken, how can you exercise your face so that you look younger, how can you wear makeup to disguise those telling ages, that we get those sort of signs of aging that unfortunately creep on us all, and also how to eat healthily, how to exercise to keep us in shape, and what do we need to do to keep ourselves in shape as we get older. It's so easy for people when they have a few more years on the clock think, oh, well, do you know what, I can't do that anymore. Actually, we need to really work hard against that inclination and try and keep ourselves fitter if we possibly can.
And this will be a fun morning. You're not going to stand at the front wagging your finger and looking around at the audience going, well, I know what you would need, or anything like that.
No, absolutely not. It's very much a fun morning. And it includes refreshments, and we've got a raffle, and also some free gifts. I'm going to give everybody a couple of gifts that will help them to lose their weight if they need to, and shape up if they need to. And we also have all kinds of other things to, we've got offers, and I've got a book called Secrets of Staying Young, which will be having I can sign for them. They can take it away at a discount, but also the profit from it will go to STEPS. So it's one of those feel-good mornings that I think will be fun, and we're going to really enjoy ourselves. And of course, the great news is that Gates Nursery, Gates Garden Centre, are nominating STEPS as their Charity of the Year starting from the 1st of July. And it will go on for 18 months. We are so grateful to Kathy and Nigel for nominating STEPS, because STEPS is a very, very worthwhile charity. It's a charity that is a little known insofar as it helps children with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome and other motor disorders to really develop their skills from a very early age. It's a nursery intake level of teaching. So if you suddenly find yourself with your new baby and the doctors are telling you that things aren't quite right, then whether it be a motor disorder or whatever it might be, then STEPS can help, because in those early days, the neuroplasticity of the brain is so able to adjust, and the sooner the child can go to STEPS, they go for a session, they go with the parents, and it's probably 2 or 3 hours at a time, and the parents are taught how to help their child develop and to achieve their full potential. And so this is a life-changing and life-saving charity, and it's based in Shepshed. I'm patron of it. We need to raise £250,000 a year. It's our 25th anniversary this year, and we are desperately trying to, as well as raise funds and enable the people and the families that do come to be helped, we also want to spread the word to people who may not know that STEPS is there. Because if you do have a child with special needs, then please give STEPS a call and see if we can help you. And their number is 01509 506 878. That's 01509 506 878. And we will be only too happy to help anybody who needs that help. Now, how do you book to come to our wonderful event next week?
Yes.
Well, you can go online at gatesgardencentre.co.uk, or you can telephone them on 01664 454 309. That's 01664 454 309. And we would love to see you. So, and if by chance, you can't book or whatever, then come along. It's Gates Garden Centre. It's next week. It's the 6th of June, Thursday, from 10 till 12. We'd love to see you there.
Rosemary Connolly, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio today. So it's £10 a ticket and all proceeds go to Steps. And I know you've got a great raffle as well that, again, will raise further money. As you say, Kathy and Nigel's great Wishing Well is going to be raising funds for the next 18 months as well, which is lovely to hear.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Rob.
So Rosemary Connolly with us this morning, and the secrets of staying young is a talk that she's giving at Gates Garden Centre next Thursday, the 6th of June.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Okay, Andrew Nelson, I'm Chief Executive of the Rutland Agricultural Society.
I'm Johnny Baker, I'm Chairman of the show and a Trustee of the Rutland Agricultural Society.
And here we are, just a few days to go, and it really is all hands to the pump, isn't it? People think you probably have a huge amount of people who actually put this show together, but it is very much the heart of the Rutland Agricultural Society that put this on. I mean, there you were chopping trees down, not chopping trees down, but,
Trimming trees and tidying things up, yes. Making things look good.
Just to give people a broad kind of cross-section of what the show's got in store. It really is something for everyone, isn't it? And I think most people would struggle to actually see everything in the day that you're here. I certainly do.
Yes, we've got heavy horses. There's approximately 60 of them coming at the moment. There's 150 odd cattle, 400 odd sheep, 300 odd poultry, goats, horse jumping ponies, horses, ridden heavy horses, vintage tractors, vintage cars, agricultural machinery, and no end of other stuff. Shopping. It's quite a lot to take in, yeah.
We've got the biggest combine in the world coming.
Have you?
Yep.
How big is that exactly? I mean, they're big things anyway, aren't they?
Size of a house, as Johnny says.
Yeah.
It's got a 40-foot front header on it, so it is meant to be huge. So that's coming on Saturday, and that'll be an event just to get it in the showground.
And you've got helicopter rides, I know, from the showground that people can look over Rutland.
And we've got great weather.
I know.
Yes, for another year.
Thank Jeremy Skipper, because he reckons the fact that he moved it from the last weekend in May to the first weekend in June, that was his legacy. Here it is, and yet again we've got something amazing on the weather front.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It makes all the difference if we have a nice day with weather. We also, this year, have got much better parking now. I'm really sticking my neck in the noose saying that. We have got a much better system and a professional parking company, so the queues that we had last year shouldn't happen, apart from what's happening in the county, which is obviously the railway line is very busy because of Market Harborough station being closed. But if you come over the bypass via the bridge, you shouldn't have any problems getting into the show.
He said it now, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, yeah. It's all got to work right now.
I'm retiring next year, so really it doesn't matter.
It's such a tough one, isn't it? Because you hang your hat literally on one day.
We do, that's it. And a shower of rain at the wrong time can change how many people come to the show very, very easily.
And there was one year where suddenly it all brightened up at 10 o'clock and then there was this massive queue of traffic.
Yes.
You just never can tell.
Yes. It's very unpredictable. It really is, yeah.
Now, I think if you want to get here, you want to get here early because all the car parks have been mowed, everything's looking great, and you should be able to get in easily, even for breakfast. We've got a lovely bistro at the end of the main show ring, so breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, Pim's Bar, be great. And we've got our local brewery, the grain store, providing us with a bar, so if it's a sunny day, it should be excellent.
And it looks so much like it's going to be, and it is so much more than an event for the farming community, but that is the reason so much that the Rutland show happens, isn't it? I mean, you've both got farming backgrounds yourselves, haven't you? And that's what it's about, really. It's about the farming community showing Rutland what it has and more.
It is. This year we've got the Midland and South West Highland Cattle Society having their annual show here, and there's Highland cattle coming from Devon and Cornwall.
And that's actually on Rutland Show Day?
Yes, it's a show within a show. And we've got the Suffolk Sheep Society show within a show as well. So we're getting recognition from breeders and societies to say this is a good show to come and show your sheep at.
Fabulous stuff.
We've got over 50 Highland cattle coming, which is a colossal amount, really, considering on an ordinary show day you'd probably only have 10 or 15.
And away from that, there's the whole Rutland community ring as well. The schools are here, there's charities here, as Johnny said, the shopping opportunities as well. It's really quite vast.
Yeah, fingers crossed, but I think each year we try and make it a bit better, but this year I think will be a step up. If the weather's good and everything goes well, people should have a great time, and I think there'll be so many different things to see, not just about agriculture, but there's such a lot of other things of great interest to most people. Even if you've never been on a farm, I think coming here would be a great event to come and see, and particularly for the children, which are free, of course.
And you can smell the newly laid tarmac. You've got a free road out of this. How great is that?
It is marvellous, and this is a highways agency. They're doing this thing where they want to show everybody what happens on our highways when, for example, there's an accident or litter picking or anything like that, because people argue, why are we sitting in this traffic queue? Well, if it wasn't for people throwing litter, etc., they wouldn't have to pick it up, therefore there wouldn't be hold-ups. Also, they're going to cut cars up to show you how, unfortunately, you have to cut people out of cars, etc. So they're going to have a lot of agencies there who help them on the roads, so that's going to be quite a spectacle in itself. And then when they're finished, they're going to mark it up as a car park for us, so it's brilliant.
And I guess people don't always appreciate that it's thanks to not necessarily the self-sacrifice of you as a committee, but actually the belief that this deserves still to happen, that this is one of the county shows that really does go from strength to strength, and it's not one that's kind of withered over the years and it's barely worth coming. There's so much to see here.
I think particularly the animals. I mean, obviously I'm biased as a farmer and I've bred cattle for a long time. I'm particularly interested in the cattle. But, you know, we have some very passionate people. Duncan, who manages all the sheep, he's very passionate about his sheep, and we've got some phenomenal exhibits there. And it's not easy putting on a show with the red tape and the legislation, and also the difficulties of animals travelling and making sure they're okay and they're comfortable. I think that's, you know, very important, and I think we're all conscious of that. But I think particularly the animals are pretty amazing, really, to have that number coming. And certainly on this showground, we will have more animals than we've ever had before.
That in itself is incredible, with nearly 200 shows down. And thanks very much for joining us here on Rutland Radio. There's still vehicles moving in. I guess everything will be set up ready for 8:30 Sunday morning, basically. And if we're late, then we get it in the net. We've had it so many times now. Promise we won't.
Well, everything is on schedule to be done. Yes, it will be done.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio podcast.
There's more live local theatre that starts tonight from a new company locally, the Horseshoe Theatre Company, which I can just about say. And Sally Mitchell-Hunt joins me, who's one of the cast in Stepping Out, which opens tonight at Uppingham Theatre. So we're back in the 80s.
We are indeed.
What else can you tell us about it?
Stepping Out is a group of ladies and one gentleman. It's a total cast of 10, so it's a very small cast. And we are all learning to tap dance, and we all come from various sort of backgrounds of life. The character I play still lives with her mum. She's never had a boyfriend, so you can kind of imagine that. We've got sort of a marketplace seller. We've got someone who's very sort of uptight, another one whose husband's a bit dodgy, so she's quite common, another one who's really quiet, and it's just following those stories of all those individuals coming together and putting on a charity concert at the end. And we're all led by our lovely dance teacher called Mavis, who is played by the incredible Lizzie Jordan, who is a name known to everybody throughout any sort of performing groups in Rutland. So it's a really good cast. We're all really excited to do it. We've been rehearsing since January, and yeah, it's just a great little show to get on. There's no singing for us, which is very unusual for all of us, because we've all come from a musical theatre background. But yeah, it's quite exciting.
Excellent stuff. And as far as the learning of the tap, there are some in the cast who are probably quite proficient, I would think.
Yes, I think there's 8 students. 6 of us can already tap. 2 have had to learn from scratch for this show, and they've done incredibly well, but it's quite hard for the ones that have been dancing since they were 4 and 5 to kind of bring it back and learn.
To look a bit elementary.
Exactly, yeah, to start from scratch. It's been quite hard, but I think we've got it.
So is Stepping Out something that all the family could enjoy? Is it more of an adult thing?
It's a show that all the family can enjoy. We'd probably put sort of an age limit around 7, because there are a few small swear words, but it's not a big thing. But if you have little ones that enjoy just watching people dancing and will find certain things funny, especially from my character, I do apologise, then I would invite anybody along to come and see it. It's a good family show.
And this is something that actually, this isn't an... Hang on. This is why I record things. So I'm getting a bit tired now at this time of day after starting too early and the cat waking me up at 4 o'clock. Could have been 3:30. Anyway, trying to think. What I was about to ask is, stepping out is a play. It's not original for this. It's something that's been performed elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a play that's been written by Richard Harris, the late great Richard Harris, and has actually been made into a musical. And I think there's a film starring Liza Minnelli, who plays the lead role of Mavis. They've also done it in the West End, kind of off West End, like the off-Broadway type thing. Mm-hmm. But they had an incredible cast, including Amanda Holden playing one of the characters. So it is a well-known, if you're part of the theatre side of things, but if you're just regular Joe Public like I was, I had no idea about this show until our lovely director, Anne Stringer, better get her in.
Absolutely.
Sort of pulled us all together, because we've all met through different theatre companies. And we wanted something to do because we were kind of bored, and I went, I know what, I'll set up my own theatre company and we can do this little play about learning to tap dance. And some of us have heard about it, some of us hadn't, and we just went, yeah, let's go for it. So it's well known, but if you're in the theatre world professionally,
yeah. So it's a good established thing to do on stage in Rutland, basically.
Definitely, yes.
Fabulous. So it starts tonight 7:30, then it's Saturday twice, matinee and evening. And where do you get tickets from and how much? And
if you are on Facebook, you can go through the Horseshoe Theatre Company Facebook page, and there is a link to the tickets that we can sell online. If you know any of the cast members, then you can contact them and we can reserve tickets for you and put them on the door. If you do intend to come, then I would suggest getting there from about sort of 10 past, 7:15. It's not essential. You won't be ruining anything because the official show starts at 7:30, but there is a little bit extra at the beginning.
Oh, okay. It's Uppingham Theatre starting tonight, Stepping Out. Sally, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio.
No problem.
Rutland Radio.
Well, you've probably seen the signs around the Oakham area. It's the Rutland Arts Theatre Society's latest production, beginning tonight at Brook Priory School Theatre. And Carolyn Miller's here to talk a little bit about it. The real Inspector Hound, Tom Stoppard. Now, people would know Tom Stoppard, I guess, as an author.
Yes, that's right. I mean, he's done a lot of plays. This is probably one of his lightest. It's a spoof, really, on murder mystery plays, but also it sends up the people who review plays as well, the theatre critics. It's quite a small cast, this one, just 8 of them altogether. The other reason people may know Stoppard, of course, is that he wrote the script for Shakespeare in Love.
Yes, absolutely. As you said, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek in places, which kind of fits the Rat's spirit for things like this, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so. Yes, it's a really good play for that. And the whole thing's really held together by the people who are playing the 2 theatre critics, and that's Steve Green and Joy Everett.
Never heard of either of them, honest. Yes,
of course not.
But great fun for 3 nights at Brook Priory School Theatre. And if you get your tickets beforehand, you'll get them for less than £10 as well.
That's right. It's £8 if you buy them at Coleman's or online beforehand, or £10 on the door.
Suitable for all ages, would you say?
Possibly more of an adult audience. I suppose children over 10 or 12. There's nothing particularly racy about it, but as always with Stoppard, it relies a lot on verbal wit. So there is a lot of visual comedy too, sort of farce, but on the whole it's verbal wit.
If you'd like to, and you're free over the next 3 nights, opens tonight at 7:30, goes through until Saturday. That's the real Inspector Hound with the Rutland Arts Theatre Society. And Carolyn, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
I'm in a place called Lampertheim, which is still on the Rhine. I shall be in Worms in probably about 20 minutes.
How's the bike holding up? How's that bike performing?
Yeah, it's surviving. I've done 1,790 miles now, and still, I think, got probably about 700 more to do.
What do you think is the most spectacular thing you've seen over the last week?
Over the last week, the space shuttle.
The space shuttle?
I stopped in a place called Speyer, which is on the Rhine, and they have a technical museum there.
Excellent. And things, would you say, broadly going to plan now after the weather obviously meant you diverted earlier in the trip?
No, it's not going to plan. I've been checking on accommodation a little bit further ahead, and one place I wanted to stop at, a place called Saint-Vith in the Ardennes, is absolutely sold out. So I'm in the process of rethinking where I'm going to go. Probably go a little bit further north, perhaps towards Cologne or Bonn, and then make a left there into Holland. I'll let you know where I am next time.
Indeed. Brian, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio. Happy travelling for another week and 1,790 miles so far. That's pretty impressive.
That's right, yeah.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk. This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
Thank you, David. I'm here with Craig Howard and also Chris Morton of Oakham and Bloom, their working party here at the library. I know you're doing big things in this area, particularly around the Peacock area. You've got some new parts as far as that.
Yeah, hopefully this week we're going to be developing a new exotic bed in the open area. So we've got things like canna lilies, ginger lilies, dahlias, all sorts of dark colours. So it should go with the peacock, be very exotic colours, all darks, crimsons, yellows, all very nice.
Chris, how often do you have the working parties here on a Sunday? Every week? Or?
Oh, no. It's when they're called for. Because once you've planted up, that's great. We just keep on top until judging, of course. And after judging, things do relax a bit. And then then it's a case of keeping it everything tidy, up until autumn when we strip the summer bedding and bring in the winter bedding. So we have working parties then, usually on a Sunday or a Wednesday afternoon. So it does vary somewhat with the demands of what requires to be done.
And we're talking about the judging, actually. Yes, there's tea and cake also coming round here for the volunteers. But the part of the judging route, actually, Land's End Way, has somehow been damaged, it appears.
Yes. It's very likely that someone has actually sprayed the beds. You can see where they've walked, and there's a swathe cutting through it. And unfortunately, all our beautiful oriental poppies and verbascums, which were a fantastic show last year, have all been killed off. It's sad, really, because this is actually at the peak. We started it three years ago, and the plants would have been perfect. Now, BP have admitted it was their contractors, ground control, who were likely to be responsible for that, and have agreed to compensate us for that. So we've got to put the plants in. Of course, the thing with gardening is it's time. It takes time to develop a garden, so we're really starting again. But we'll be replacing the plants, and we'll be looking for assurances from BP and their contractors that in future they will not go onto this land and spray it.
Now, hopefully within the next 6 weeks you can get a display of a kind back, because of course it's judging before we know it in July.
Yes, and this is one of it's an award winning. It won the best border in the East Midlands, and obviously we're very concerned that for the judges they're going to see a large area of no flowers. So it'll be explained to them, but again it's a bit of a setback. But hopefully we've got a lot else on in the town, so they'll take that into account when they come to their final marks.
Well, good luck for the judging in July, and good luck for yet another award in September this year.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your support.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio podcast.
Morning.
Good morning. How was your weekend?
It was fine. I went out with my friend to Breton. We had a coffee and moseyed round. Then came home and sat and watched Robson Green fishing. Had a nap.
I could have done with a bit of watching TV and having a nap, but there you go. It's all busy at the Rutland show yesterday. We're talking about coffee and tea today, and apparently 25 cups of coffee a day is no worse for you than one for your heart. Are you a coffee or tea drinker, and do you drink a lot?
I have about 8 cups of tea a day and perhaps one coffee once a month, because I do find that coffee makes your plumbing run. And who on earth drinks 25 cups of coffee a day?
I really don't know, but I'm still trying to find them.
I thought you were good on that, going in that Dunkin' bath.
Well, I actually enjoyed it. I didn't expect to. I was really nervous at doing it because I thought it was going to be this huge contraption. When I saw it, It wasn't too bad. It was just 4 foot. You could stand up in it. It was cold water. They just filled it in the morning, but it warmed up a bit in the afternoon, and I had to do it 5 or 6 times, and I was fine. I would have gone in again and again.
Yes, there were no piranhas in the water.
Not as far as I know. I couldn't see anything.
But you do so much. But then you are quite young.
Is that what it is?
Well, I think you have more energy when you're young, and you've got a little girl, so you've got to keep your energy levels up.
This is true. More tired than I've ever been, but somehow you could just keep on going.
Now, volunteering.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. I love it. When I finished work, when I retired when I was 72, I was at a dead end. You've got nothing to get up for, no purpose. I've met some lovely people, customers and staff. We go out for a meal once a month for a lunch. It does you the world of good. It makes you young.
And you volunteer in one of the charity shops, don't you?
Yes, cancer research. And we're looking for extra people as well. So come along, we have a laugh and we meet people and it's really nice. And you're doing something good.
You certainly
and we have
are.
Biscuits.
Yeah, and you have biscuits.
Don't let Sarah and I hear that.
No, absolutely. She never listens. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a lovely week and speak to you in 7 days.
Yes, and you have a rest.
I'll try.
Bye.
Rutland Radio.
Hi, I'm Elaine Rutham and I'm the Macmillan Coordinator for the Cancer Project in Rutland.
And I'm Barbara Thomas and I'm the support worker.
Now, as we've mentioned before, the whole Cancer Project is all about getting the various services together, because there's 4 organisations you work with, Elaine. If you could remind us of who they are.
Yep, we work alongside and very closely with the Hollyhocks Cancer Support Group and the Rutland and Melton Group, and also Dove Cottage, because, as I say, our goals and aims are the same. We just have different things that we can offer, and it's working very well. Us all working together. So.
And you wanted to come in really to tell us, where you are and plans for the future as well. So if you can talk a little bit about that, how's obviously was the right thing to do, actually bringing all the services together.
Definitely, and that's had its benefits because quite a few of our clients will access more than one service. Some people like the groups, other people prefer the one-to-one service, and obviously we can refer to each other, so it makes what we have to offer in Rutland a more seamless service, and people then start to realise that actually, I didn't realise there were so many services in Rutland that we could access. It was originally a project for 2 years. We have now been given funding till June 2020, which I hope shows people the worth and the effectiveness of the service. We've supported almost 100 people in that time, and numbers are growing, which means that we are trying to offer other services as well, such as we're training our volunteers to do a hand and foot massage. We're calling it Blooming Marvellous, where the volunteers can go to their clients and offer something different. And we're also looking, depending on how many volunteers we get, to offer that service at the Rutland Memorial Hospital and the Rutland Ward. So it's really all about getting the foundations right, which, even though it's been 2 years, it's been the last sort of 6 months or so that it's started to really embed itself. We're still looking for more referrals, looking for more volunteers. It's a case of if you use the service, we don't want to lose it. Feedback from the clients has been fantastic. And it's good because they've said their mental health has been better, they felt better supported. And a lot of them had a very negative, pessimistic outlook, but our volunteers take them out, they do lots of things with them, and it's the emotional support as well that's been very important. People quite often need somebody that's a little bit more detached to talk to rather than family, and just treating people as individuals, so we assess them on their needs and then work with other services as well as ours, to make sure that we can make life a little bit easier for them, really.
And Barbara, if you could tell us a little bit about your work.
Really, I'm the support worker for the volunteers, and they come to me for help and advice while they're in post, while they're working with the clients. They're responsible for also training them and making sure that they are comfortable in going out and doing what they do. They can come and access us any time that they like. They're not on their own out there with the clients. We have a drop-in session every week. They can come to that. There's supervision that's held. There's good training for them, and that's my responsibility.
I suppose you're here twofold, really, to raise further awareness of the services that you offer so that more people can access them, and presumably as a result of that you need more volunteers to help as well and help people on their journey.
Yes, exactly that. As more and more people come to hear of this, we need more and more volunteers, and it escalates like that. So if anyone feels that they can offer some time to the service, we'd be very pleased to hear from them.
And what sort of commitment would it be?
Generally, it's a couple of hours a week, that's all. There might be other things. Sometimes we have get-togethers, we have coffee mornings with the other volunteers. There's some training that comes up every so often, but it's not onerous.
So how can people get in touch, access the service and offer their help? Where's the best sort of route for that?
They can contact us directly. Next week is Volunteers Week, so we are doing a volunteer thank you on Tuesday the 4th.
Is that something that new volunteers maybe could come along to?
If new volunteers would like to come along and have a chat to the volunteers, see what it's all about, yes, they're more than welcome. On the Wednesday there's a volunteer fair, which I'm sure you're aware of, and we'll be there, so people can come along and, if they want to volunteer, choose different organisations. And then we've got our event on June the 27th at the Castle, Your Health Matters, which is there really to promote the service, but it's mainly about trying to get people to look after themselves even though they might be living with cancer. And it's early diagnosis, how they can look after themselves and those sort of things. So yes, anybody's welcome to come along on that day as well.
And can people find you online or from your office as well?
Yes, I think a lot of people know that my office is based above the AGK shop in Uppingham, so anybody can just pop in if I'm there, come and have a chat and see what it's all about, because it's very rewarding and we're surprised the difference it makes to the volunteers as well as the client.
Excellent, thanks very much for joining us today. This is all part of Volunteers Week and we'll have those details on our website as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Rutland Radio's Best Bits on the podcast.
I'm Juliana White and I am the Retail Director of Fords.
And I'm speaking to you here that you've announced after nearly about 132 years since Ford started.
1877, so yeah, I think we're in our 147th year.
Might be, I'm just trying to do the maths.
But I mean,
it's been here for a long time, and actually it's a real end of an era really that's coming up for you.
It is with the with the shop side. It is a real sort of end of an era, but the business started out as cabinet makers and funeral directors, and we very much plan to continue with the funeral directors and put all of our efforts into that and to drive it forward, so we can keep serving our beautiful little county with the best possible care and professionalism that we can with the funeral directors in people's hour of need.
And as far as the department store side of it, how did you come to that decision? Presumably it must have been a financial one.
It's a mixture for us. I think everybody's aware of today's sort of retail economy, and it is getting tougher and tougher. We have been incredibly lucky with all our loyal customers over the years, and it's probably a good time to say a huge thank you to everybody that's supported us year in, year out. But Richard and I have a very young family, and there's only me and him. So there's not quite enough of us to go around, to be honest, at the minute, and it all does fall on Richard. And Richard is amazing at what he does with the funeral business. So we thought the time had come for us to decide and where we were going to sort of drive the business forward, and we are picking the funeral side over the shop side.
So the funeral side will be the shop front, the rest of it will be let. You own this building, I guess?
Yep, we own the building, so obviously before we even thought about making this decision, we'd moved the menswear department into from the little tiny cottage into sort of near the entrance of the main shop, and we'd always planned to finally give the funeral department Church Street frontage. So that is continuing to happen. So we'll have a lovely, on the street presence for the funeral directors. The rest of the building, so just shy of 10,000 square feet, we hope to rent out.
You think of similar businesses to you in cities that are finding it tough at the moment. How do you think, from your perspective, how things have changed in Oakham the time that you've been here? It's a hard one to say because you want to be positive about, all the shops that still are here, and actually there are people still coming into town supporting the town.
Yeah, there are, absolutely. I mean, we wouldn't have been here all this time without all those people coming in. And it is such a beautiful little town. And I think one of our saving graces is we are getting more and more visitors to Rutland Water every year. So I think if people can sort of jump on that bandwagon and really make the most of the people coming into the town, there's a really good chance for all the businesses to carry on being very successful.
And what about the internet side of things? I mean, people look online, they might buy online, and we're always being told to support our high streets, to shop local. Do you think there's enough people doing that?
There always needs to be more people doing that. I think the constraint of people's working hours, especially we're a small market town, so I think people possibly struggle to fit in shopping around the traditional shopping hours, which makes the internet obviously much more attractive. We have found over the years that people come and have a look around, have a touch and a feel in the shop, and then go home and buy online. We've always been very competitive and matched kind of internet prices for most things. But I think it's just going to be a battle that carries on, really. Who knows what's going to happen with the likes of ASOS now looking at how much people are returning. I think there might be change afoot with internet shopping, and you'll find that returns are charged for, and your delivery charges and things are going to go up. So it's an interesting time. We'll see what happens.
You're saying basically people who buy their clothes online, buy different sizes, return a whole load, that's going to come at a premium because business has to, pay for itself.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the statistics are quite scary when you look at, especially with clothing, the amount of returns and things that are being returned. The likes of these big companies, even they can't sustain that volume. So we'll see what happens.
So what about between now and the end of August? A message, I guess, to your customers and future customers.
Yeah, so a huge thank you to everybody that's shopped with us for all these years, and of course all our staff, past and present, because we love them all dearly and they are part of our family. So we are very sad about that. However, we will be having a good old closing down sale, so it will be a good chance to come in and grab some bargains. We are looking at starting that sale hopefully by this weekend. So coming quick before it all goes.
Juliana, thanks very much for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
Rutland Radio.
Well, as mentioned on Rutland Radio over the last few weeks, it's very much into cricket season, all the big competitions coming up. And the next one, and you've probably seen the signs around the Stamford area, is the Stamford Super Sevens. It starts 6 p.m. on Monday, the 17th of June, and Andrew Hume from the club is here to tell us a little bit more. Third, fourth year, something like that?
I think it's the third year, third year we've run it. So far, we've been very lucky with the weather both years, so we're hoping that's going to continue because it's been absolutely fantastic. Barnock won the first year, and then the heavily fancied Deeping team won last year, and I think they're probably going to be hot favourites going into it again this year, but we've got a few new teams as well, so there could be a few surprises.
So tell us the teams that you've got confirmed.
Market Deeping, Barnock, Ufford, Uffington, Tolthorpe, the Grain Store Brewery, Stamford, so they're teams that have all played in it before. And then there's a few new teams, Oakham, Moulton, Burley Park, BGL Group and Durant Cricket. So they're all new to it this year, so looking forward to seeing what they've got in store for us.
And these are teams that either come from existing clubs or are actually formed for the event?
Yeah, some of them veteran players from existing clubs, some of them are companies or whatever that have kind of put together, but most of them have got a few pretty handy cricketers, so whichever way they're formed, they're usually pretty useful.
Now, from the sixes competitions that we know locally, the sevens, it's an older player and one extra player in your team. That's kind of the philosophy of it.
Yeah, I think for the first year, this year, we're allowing, I think it's one under 18 player, probably to bit of the bulk of the running for some of the older guys. But yeah, it's over 40s in general. And even though it's probably played at a slightly slower pace as some of the league cricket at a weekend, they really do take it quite seriously, especially come finals night. It's pretty well attended, and it's always quite competitive on the final on Friday.
So it goes throughout that week, Monday the 17th through to Friday the 21st?
Yeah, every night that week, kicking off at about 6 o'clock.
Which would be a nice kind of precursor as a Stamford Festival event to the floats, I suppose, which is the day after. So 6 p.m. every night. Is that 3 games a night that you're doing?
Yeah, 3 games a night, so there's 4 groups. 1 group takes place per night, and the winning team from each group goes through to the finals night on Friday.
All at Stamford Town Cricket Club, Uffington Road.
Yeah, that's correct.
Andrew, thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you there.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Yes, I'm Jane Merritt, now Jane Rutter.
And you named Rutland Water.
I wouldn't go that far. I played a role in the naming of Rutland Water. When I was at school, I was only 18. I discovered that the Anglian Water Authority were just ignoring local views and insisting on calling the new reservoir Empingham Reservoir. You can't even see the reservoir from Empingham, so that was ridiculous. So, and we wanted to keep the name of Rutland, which was disappearing into Leicestershire. So those of us, I'd grown up in Rutland, I felt very strongly that we should keep the name. So I started a little petition, which bloomed into a big petition, to have the reservoir called Rutland Water. A much more Anglo-Saxon sort of local name, not a namby-pamby French-sounding thing.
And how do you feel being back here today, 50 years after the planning was passed?
Is it 50 years since the planning was passed? Gosh.
That's why it all came about, this whole documentary, yeah.
It's 43 years since I did the petition, so it's been a long, long process getting Rutland Water together. I feel amazed that I'm part of living history, really. It's very humbling to be in the exhibition as somebody who had a small role to play in such an all-encompassing event. But it's lovely to meet people who were here at the time, and I'm looking forward to the presentation, and I think it's a wonderful exhibition that's been put together. I think I'm full of admiration for the people who've been behind it.
And how do you feel looking out now, seeing this? I mean, at the old St Michael's Church that used to be, that's been raised, and we're looking out over one of the most beautiful parts of our county.
Rutland is the perfect county. It's beautiful countryside, but it has this fantastic area of water which just looks so natural now and has been beautifully kept, and I'm so pleased that some of the most outlandish proposals of the Water Authority at the time never came to fruition. So it looks beautifully natural, people sailing and windsurfing. It's just fantastic.
Rutland Radio.
I'm Roland Higgins, and I'm a volunteer for the befriending service of Evergreen.
I'm Michael Irons, and I'm here as someone who's been befriended by Roland.
How long has the relationship been going on?
Are we now into year 2, Michael?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so it's been about 2 years. It should have been a bit longer, but it took a while because both Michael and I have got long-term life conditions, and they just got in the way, didn't they? So we had to get our lives settled, and then we could go forward.
So how often do you see each other?
We see each other once every week, if possible. So I go to collect Michael, and we go to a Wednesday fellowship group here in Stamford. But then every now and then we go to a concert together. And one of the reasons why Michael and I were buddied together was because we both have a liking for music. I tend to be of the more classical and opera, and Michael is pop and modern. But it's amazing how often we have something jointly of interest. And in June, we're going to a concert here in Stamford at the Corn Exchange.
We are, yes. We're going to a festival of the 1960s. It's taking place on the 15th of June, and we're looking forward to that very much. There'll be some famous people from the 1960s there on stage, and we're looking forward to a rousing evening. The concerts there are very good usually, so we're very pleased to be able to get in.
And how do you feel, having this in your diary every week, having the fact that you've got this meetup? How does it change your life?
It's a great comfort to me, having Rutland coming to see me every week as an anchor in a storm, and it gives me bearings. It gives me opportunity to shake myself and say, "Come on, Michael, Rutland's coming tomorrow. You've got to be ready for him." So it does help a lot.
And Roland, what does it give you actually? Here as the support in all this.
I think that the thing about volunteering is that it always broadens your horizons, and although that I knew that Michael liked music, he's actually been the backing guitarist for Ricky Valance. Have I got the name right, Michael?
Yes, Ricky Valance, yes.
Yeah. Ricky Valance, who came to the Corn Exchange just a couple of years ago and gave a concert. That Ricky Valance.
That Ricky Valance.
Wow. Yes, I met him and I've met you, so I need to probably meet the rest of the band and we're done, aren't we? Wow.
This was a long while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, nice to know he's still alive and doing well.
And, obviously when you go to the Corn Exchange and go back to a similar era, I mean, probably slightly after Ricky Valance,
yes.
That's going to really kind of, stir a lot of things for you.
Yes, it is. It certainly does help a lot. And I enjoy 60s music very much indeed.
And how has the Evergreen Care Trust helped you? Is it principally through the befriending, really, that you would say would be the greatest gift that it's given you?
It's through the befriending. When I moved to the Stamford area, I didn't know anybody, and so to know that there was somebody I could talk to, and I could look forward to seeing every week, was such a great comfort to me that. You can't really describe it, but it's a blessing.
Roland, have you anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, some Wednesdays I can't make it, but because Michael has, through our joint getting together on Wednesdays with the Wednesday Fellowship group, has been able to get up a whole range of friends, and so if I can't make it, then they arrange to go and collect him, or he arrives by taxi, and then at the end of the trip they take him back. So it's actually widened your friendship base quite a lot, hasn't it, Michael?
Yes, indeed, yes.
Yeah. And it's widened my musical interests an awful lot. One thing that you should always do if you're on a pub quiz is to have Michael on your team. He's the man who can pull the stuff forward quickly, just like that. But one of the games that we play is that I like opera, and crossover groups like G4 or Il Divo often sing a pop song in Italian in the classic style. So I play it, and then Michael tells me who the original person was who sung it, what the song is, and the year.
Yes, you should be working for us, Michael, to be honest.
It's so wonderful. Do you have a flashback hour on your program on your channel?
We do. We have it called Classic Hits, and we go back to the 60s sometimes on that. Yes.
A jolly good job too. Well done.
And from a volunteering point of view, I mean, that's why we're talking this week really on Volunteers Week. It's clearly given a lot to you as a volunteer to be part of this.
Yeah, somebody once asked me about volunteering, and I said the thing about volunteering is you know what you're putting in, but what's going to come back and when, you never know. But just like with Michael, I would never have gone to the revival concerts in Stamford, and now I do, and we have a good time together. So you never know when payback is going to come along in volunteering, but it always does.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Well, my name is Alan Gray. I was an umpire, tennis umpire and line judge for 25 years at Wimbledon until I retired 6 years ago now. And so I had some good experiences, also one or two not so good, but that's another story. And now I can relax and just watch it on television or live and enjoy it.
And how was it that actually you even got into that profession?
Well, I'd always, from the age of 8, in my native Scotland, I'd always played the game, not to a high standard, but I always loved the game, and been going to Wimbledon on and off for almost 50, 60 years. The first 30 as a spectator, the next 30 as an official. And so I think my interest in it, taking over the officiating side or getting involved in it, appealed to me, not realising at the time quite how difficult it was going to be and challenging. But the good times more than outweighed the occasional frustrating times or days when you sat in a marquee and not a ball was hit because of weather, things like that. It had, like everything in life, the not so glamorous times as well.
And you think of, say, a referee's decision in football where at the top level they're able to watch video footage. You were never able, I don't think they even do it now actually, it's still actually on your site, is that right?
Well, no. At most tournaments, you're absolutely correct, there is no technology to help. But at Wimbledon, for example, they have something called Hawkeye, which gives a replay off the point. Did the ball touch the line or didn't it? And unlike in cricket, rugby and football, where sometimes technology can cause more problems, more delays than it's worth on occasions, in tennis it's very, very successful. The minute the players see the image on the screen, they accept that what's happening and they get ready for the next point. You can't ask more than that. It's expensive for reasons I don't understand, but so it's not on every court at Wimbledon. I think that it's on 10 or 11 as far as I'm aware. But in time, I'm sure it'll become cheaper. It'll probably be on every court. And I can see the day when there are no line judges at the big Grand Slams. It'll all be done by technology. You'll still have an umpire in the high chair managing the proceedings, but line judges will be redundant. But that is a personal opinion.
And presumably in your profession, centre court on TV, watched by millions of people, would that be the pinnacle of what you could achieve?
Yes, it's certainly where most officials, when they start, that would be the dream, to be there one day. A minority of officials are full-time and try and make a career out of it and travel the world. I had a full-time career outside tennis, and a wife, children and a dog who needed to be entertained. And they were very tolerant and allowed me to develop this hobby. But I had a 9-to-5 job as well, so it was weekends, holidays, etc. But the dream was always Wimbledon. And then once you get to Wimbledon the first time, then you want to climb the ladder, so to speak, and get on centre court, which I never did as an umpire. I think court 3 was the highest I got to. But as a line judge, I officiated on 6 finals, including Becker, Sampras, Agassi, Ivanisevic, and 4 ladies' finals. And yes, that was a great experience, if somewhat nerve-wracking on occasions. And if you make a mistake in public, it can be a very unforgiving place.
And seeing these people who you'd obviously, having taken a huge interest in the sport, admired up close, and you're seeing them actually performing in front of you, that itself must be a kind of pinch-me moment.
Yes, the adrenaline is going. It can be so exciting. You're thinking like a spectator at one level, and then suddenly you have to jolt yourself, I've got a job to do as well. But yes, some special moments with the big-named players. Conversely, if a match is boring, and the rallies are going on for an eternity, it's very difficult to keep your concentration on such occasions. And it can be a long day. You're maybe working from 10 in the morning right through till 6:30, 7:30, 8:30 at night. If you're a line judge, usually you're on for an hour, off for an hour. As an umpire, you umpire the whole match. But yes, it can be lonely. It can be a long day. It can be too cold or too warm. It's not like a football referee or a rugby referee, an hour and a half and they're off home. With this, you're there for the day. In the case of Wimbledon, 13 consecutive days, after which you don't want to see a tennis ball for 6 months. But you soon get over that. Yeah.
And would you be able to point to any decisions of famous tennis names that people would know that you witnessed, you were involved with?
Yes, that's a difficult one. I mean, so many matches there were key points on, and all the matches tend to merge into one, and the memory gets clouded. But yeah, for me, the probably most special moment was when Agassi won Wimbledon for the first time, 1992, I think it was, when I was on court at the time. And a wonderful 5-set match. The crowd were loving every second of it. The adrenaline was going. And when he won that final point and sank to his knees crying, wow, talk about emotion. That was a special moment. And similarly in some of the ladies' matches over the years, very similar situations. I remember when Steffi Graf won it, beating Sabatini. That was a memorable occasion as well for different reasons. So, yeah, some good times.
And we were talking just before about the fact that your talk is called "You Cannot Be Serious." Probably the most famous phrase ever uttered in tennis by John McEnroe, who's still very much entwined with the sport. He does a great job with commentary there, and as a player actually, he made tennis front page news.
Yeah, absolutely. In the late 80s, 90s, there were 3 of them really who made tennis front page news: McEnroe, Connors and Nastase. And the crowd loved their behaviour, good and bad. Ironically, people condemn bad behaviour, but they flocked to watch it. And yes, McEnroe's still a very able player as a veteran. And as you rightly say, as a commentator and analyst, second to none. Insightful, amusing, provocative, challenging. He's got it all. And there's an event at the Albert Hall every December, as a Veterans Masters event, and the crowd just love to see him. And now I'm retired, I think I can say this, but the worst he ever shouted at me, and shout is the word, was, "Answer the question, jerk." He called me a jerk. I've been called lots of things in life, but never a jerk before. But anyway, he smiled afterwards, and so we moved on.
And from the more contemporary tournament, Andy Murray's success in actually winning the men's singles title, and then so soon afterwards actually having problems, injuries, hip problems, shoulder problems, all sorts of things. Actually, he really is someone who's fought so hard to actually be a Brit right at the top.
Absolutely. If you very briefly look at what he's achieved, winning Wimbledon twice, the American Open, the Olympics twice, the Davis Cup for Britain, first time in 50, 60 years, whatever it was, world number 1, and of course his brother, Jamie, was world number 1 as well. And what he's achieved is second to none. One of his greatest supporters is the old Manchester United manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, who said that if he's never known a British sportsman with more fight and determination for himself and his country, and let's put the emphasis on the country, than Andy Murray. And that was a football manager talking about him. So, yes, he's had a great career, unlucky enough to coincide with 3 of the greatest of all time players. They call them GOATs these days, greatest of all time. Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. If, say, one of them hadn't been about, he would have won many more Grand Slams. He'd runner-up in the Australian Open 5 times alone. But still, he's achieved what he's achieved, world number 1. Whether he can get back to that, we'll have to see. He's going to play doubles, as you may know, at Queen's next week with a Spaniard, and we'll have to see how that progresses, or he'll have to see, before he decides whether he'll ever get back to singles play.
And who will you be watching particularly at Wimbledon this year?
Who will I be watching? Well, it's interesting. For the last 3, 4, 5 years, we've been waiting for a breakthrough, particularly in the men's game, for somebody to take the place of the big four, Murray, Nadal, Djokovic and Federer. And there have been several names that have threatened. And ironically, it's still the same today, even at the French Open as we speak. You've got Nadal playing Federer in one half and Djokovic playing an Austrian in the other. But nobody's broken through, really. So I think the player I'd like to see, and I can't pronounce his name, so that's not going to help, but he's a Greek player, and the name begins with T. It's something, Tsitsipas or something like that. He looks very exciting for the future, but we've said that before about a few in recent years, and it hasn't happened. And similar in the ladies' game, it's been dominated by Serena Williams for so long, but I think at last there are several, and not least a British player, Joanna Konta, who's now in the semi-finals, very commendably. There are now several threatening to take over the number one lady in the world. So there's no one player I'll be watching, although, thinking about it, the most entertaining player I have ever seen will be at Wimbledon, and his name is Mansour Bahrami. Not a household name, but he's a veteran, French-Iranian, who can do every trick in the game with the ball and the racket. And he's worth going out of your way to see or switch channel on television to watch Bahrami.
Rutland Radio.
The very first Allied soldiers to land in Normandy on D-Day took off from North Witham Airfield.
This airfield played a really important part of the 8th Air Force as well before it ever became Transport Command, because a lot of the beaten up B-17s and Liberators came here to be maintained and sent back to their stations again. Very, very important place, significant and really poignant and really atmospheric tonight as well, actually.
In this place, they used it to decommission lots and lots of bombs. I don't know if you've been down on the other runway where there's that curious ramp. Well, in Morecambe Wood there was a massive ammunition dump, and I believe a lot of the bombs were brought here to be taken apart and the explosives removed and the fuses removed and things like that.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
It's Brian Riley, and I work for Aviation Heritage Lincolnshire, which is part of Lincolnshire County Council, as an aviation historian.
And we're here at RAF North Witham that was. 75 years ago, this was probably the most important place in the UK or locally?
Well, actually literally 75 years ago now, you were between the waves of aircraft taking off, carrying the Pathfinder paratroopers to Normandy, and these were the first guys to go out and mark the drop zones and landing zones for the main force of paratroopers for the airborne assault on Normandy. And these guys landed before the waves came in by sea. So yeah, effectively it's the start of the assault on the Normandy coast. It started here.
And how long was this actually a base for?
This was opened in late 1943, and it continued right through to the end of the war. The Americans left towards the end of the war, sort of March, April 1945. After that, the RAF took it over as a maintenance unit, and it carried on for some years after that. But its main role, its main starring role, if you like, was for the Pathfinders from here 75 years ago tonight.
There's lots of sources that say about Eisenhower being here to wave the first aircraft off.
There are, and actually Eisenhower did go to wave aircraft off, but he went to airfields closer to where he was based down near Portsmouth. One of the airfields he did go to earlier on the 5th of June was Greenham Common, which was known in the 80s for cruise missiles. But he didn't come up here on the evening of the 5th of June because he was too busy further down south of England. But I'm really not sure whether he ever made it here at all.
So, as well as RAF North Witham, Cottesmore, and also Spano Airfield as well, we had a lot of American personnel there as well.
Yes, it did. Around this area, it's a cluster of American airfields with troop carrier aircraft on them. And although Lincolnshire as a county generally is known as Bomber County because of Bomber Command being here. It had a major contribution from the American troop carriers. They were not only involved here in flying the Normandy operation, but in September 1944 they were involved in Operation Market Garden, the Arnhem operation, and indeed the paratroopers that captured the bridge at Arnhem that we see in Bridge Too Far film, they actually took off from Lincolnshire airfields. So there's a lot of hidden history here that people locally are not aware of, unfortunately, and it's our job to make sure they are.
As you say, hidden. I'd heard of RAF North Witham before tonight, but I had no idea how significant that was. And here we are 75 years to the day, even knowing the exact time that the first aircraft took off.
Yes, it is. It's amazing that thousands of people pass the A1 right next to the airfield, and in fact, 75 years ago tonight, the aircraft were using the runway here that took them right over the A1 on the way to Normandy. But it's hidden. Even local people don't realise the significance of this little gem in the woods that's now Forestry England's land. And fortunately, some of the runways still remain, and you can actually literally walk along the very runway that was used by the Pathfinders in 1944.
And it was Forestry Commission land before the RAF built their operation.
Yes, it was. It went back to before the war, so there was some forestry here, but post-war they've been planting trees between the runways. Clearly, runways and trees don't get on when you've got aircraft, so now you don't get quite the right impression of what it did look like here at the time, but it does make it more atmospheric, and especially in the evening as we are now, it's slightly creepy.
And your walk that you led tonight, so many people I've met in the woods said, "Oh, we tried to get on that." It was oversubscribed by quite a margin.
Yes, it was. So actually, there are two more walks being run. The first one is a week on Sunday, which is the 16th of June, 2:00. If people are interested in getting a place on it, they need to sign up for it. So the best thing to do is to go to the South Kesteven District Council website, and they'll get directed to sign up on another page for it. It's totally free. It's just the numbers need to be controlled, so that's how people get onto it. It is very popular, as you say, and the more people that know about this fantastic heritage, the better.
Rutland Radio.
My name is Luke DeBerry, and I am playing Curtis in Sister Act, who's the bad guy.
How many men are actually in this?
There are in total 4 guys in Sister Act. So you've got me playing Curtis, you've got Callum playing Sweaty Eddie, the policeman, you've got Harrison, who is playing one of my henchmen, Joey, and then you've got Red, who's playing one of my other henchmen, TJ, who's my nephew.
Now, unlike some musicals, this has a lot like the film in it. If you've seen the film with Whoopi Goldberg, the songs are the same, the story's the same.
Yeah, it stays fairly true to the film, which I know a lot of shows tend not to, but Alan Menken, who wrote the music, I believe, for both of them.
And it's a high-energy show. It needs good singing, good performance. It needs to be, I suppose, believable apart from anything else, especially when you've got a teenage cast trying to play a wide range of ages.
Yeah, it's definitely a high-energy show, which I'd say, it does suit us quite well. Esper's certainly full of some high-energy people. And yeah, working with teenage casts, it can be daunting sometimes when you're playing characters who are much older. So, for example, Caitlin is playing Mother Superior, who's kind of the head nun, if you will. Playing characters that are older can sometimes be a bit daunting, but that's what we're training to do. We're training to be professional and play a wide variety of casts. So they definitely teach us at Esper to broaden our horizons as to the sort of characters we can play.
And I know you'd love people, whether they know someone in Esper or not, to come and see the show. It's Friday and Saturday night at the Corn Exchange?
Yes, Friday and Saturday, the 7th and 8th of June at Stamford Corn Exchange. Yeah, we want anyone to come and see it, even if, you haven't seen that much musical theatre. It's a feel-good show. It's something that will definitely lift you up, raise you up, if you will. So I think it's a sort of show that everyone will enjoy. It's got funny moments, it's got energy moments, it's got some emotional moments. So it's definitely a show that everyone could come and see and get involved with and enjoy.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
So tell us about your military career in World War II, where you were based.
In World War II, I joined the Royal Army Ordnance Corps in 1941, and I was transferred to Remy on the first day that Remy was formed, which was the 1st of October 1942. I went across to France on D-Day, but I was one of the lucky ones. I landed with the second wave and just got my feet wet a little bit, that's all. Fortunately, we had a bridgehead of about several miles, at that particular time, which was, I don't really know, but I'm going to suggest it was tea time-ish. And the first real action, apart from snipers and being shelled a bit, the first real action that we saw was in the Cairn area, and that was, well, I won't say what it was, but it took a long time, as you know. After that, I went on to our next major thing, I think, was Le Havre, and then the Battle of Arnhem. But I wasn't airborne, of course. I was one of the ones on foot. But that's my military career. And I was in Remy. I was in the army for 18 months after the war finished, and I was stationed near to the Mona Dam.
And you were in Caldecott before and afterwards?
I was born in Caldecott in 1922. I lived in Caldecott for 81 years, well, about 6 weeks short of 81 years. Then we moved to Uppingham 16 years ago. So you will guess that now I'm nearly 97.
And looking back over that day, the fact that so few of you are around now and so few survived as well, such a barbaric
Well, this
time.
is always a little bit embarrassing to me because I'm always think about those that didn't come back. Indeed, one of my best friends as a boy in Caldecott didn't come back, and I met him in France the evening before he was killed. I was with him. Well, unfortunately, he wasn't killed. He lost both his legs and died later.
And yeah, it's very hard not to think of those who. It's very hard not to think of those who didn't make it.
Today, to me, has been a very emotional. Well, I was all right watching the television this morning until they played the hymn "I vow to me my country," and then that brought tears to my eyes.
Rutland Radio.
What was your rank at the time?
At that time, I was a gunner. I finished up the end of the war as a lieutenant, but that was a long way off. Yeah, that was part of Sherwood Rangers.
And 1944?
44, yes, until Hamburg, May the 5th. Oh, that was the end of our war. We were a few days early. Yes.
So you actually your operation ended before D-Day.
My operation ended before VE Day. Yes, not D-Day. D-Day started on D-Day. Yeah. Yes, it was much the same as everybody else's experiences. I think a lot of discomfort, not very nice weather, lots of dirt. You know, all the usual stuff.
And what does it mean to be here looking back over that time? I mean, it's a hard thing to look back on for anyone who was involved, I know.
It's quite bittersweet, I think. Quite emotional, I think, simply because there's so much being made of it this time. Usually it just sort of passes. But this time, and it's probably our last anyway, because I don't suppose we're going to be around for the next one. So yeah, it's a bit bittersweet, I think. And I lost some good friends, naturally. You know, our stories are much the same. It was a huge. I've been reading a book about it. It was very good. I hadn't really, when you're there, you don't realise how big the whole operation was huge. And we had so many advantages. Actually, we had the artillery, we had the air support, and had the tanks, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all good. Thanks for sharing some of that. I mean,
it was an unusual event.
Rutland Radio.
First of all, could you describe your military career in the Second World War? What you did?
Well, we sailed from Tilbury through the Channel and landed 5 days after D-Day, and pretty horrendous, as you can imagine. And I was only there 3 weeks, and my unit was completely wiped out by a German bomber, destroyed all the vehicles, injured Captain Lyle and 5 other ranks, and we were re-equipped and we went on. I was in the 51st Highland Division, which surrendered at St Valery in 1940, and we went and liberated it in the middle of July.
And as for D-Day itself, presumably it took a few days for word to reach you. Where were you then?
Well, we were coming through not everyone landed on D-Day, because the bridgehead was very small, and in fact the armoured division didn't get to Normandy till August. Excuse me. And I mean, the press kept hammering us, what are you doing just sitting there? You can't go tearing across Europe unless you've got petrol, supplies, ammunition. They all had to be transported from England. But once they got Pluto was pipelined under the ocean, and that pumps fuel across, and then we got more mobile. And as you know, the French liberated Paris, and we had a big battle at Falaise, and then we broke out to France.
And what does it mean to you, 75 years on, to be here tonight, being able to look back when so many people never had that gift, really? They didn't survive.
I think very memorable day, obviously. The fact that you've survived 75 years. You've got to be 95 to have been there. And very memorable. And moving, of course, yeah.
So what was your rank in the army?
Sergeant. As a medic in a forward dressing station, and couldn't be an officer unless you were a doctor. But there we are, that's life.
So you were working on the injured that you saw all the time, I presume. You were actually working on the injured people around you?
Yes. Picked up a lot of Germans as well, of course. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming along tonight and being part of this commemoration. There are so few of you around.
Yes, thank you very much indeed.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk.